Hey folks, Colin here from Something's Recording, and today I'm going to show you the key to finishing your mixes faster. Now before we jump in here, if you are looking to dive a little bit deeper into the mixing process, then I have a free gift here for you today. This is my 7-step mixing checklist. You can download it for free using the link in the description. It will guide you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to get you professional and radio-ready mixes without all the hassle and without any of the guesswork. Again, you can download that for free, using the link in the description. But today, we're going to talk about the key to finishing mixes in less time. And the key to doing that is to have mixing templates prepared. So I'm going to walk you through my general mixing template today. So I have a couple different mixing templates for a couple different genres. I'm going to walk you through the one I made for here at my studio when we track an album or when we track a kind of rock track here. Okay, so we're going to look at full drums, bass, a couple guitars, a couple keys, vocals, background vocals, the whole setup. Okay, so starting in, what you can do is just create a blank session, okay? So if you're using Studio One or whatever DAW you're using, you can just create a new song, save it in your folder if you want to. You don't really have to save it because we're going to save it as a template later, and then you want to build out like you're using a normal mixing session, okay? So for our drums, we have kick in, kick out. Now these are sending to a kick level because I always bust my kicks together, so I want that created. And then I have the processing that I usually pull in for a kick track, for a kick bus, okay? So I usually throw a limiter on just to catch any kind of peaks or anything that jump past any kind of compression while recording. Always have an EQ, and then I have my compressor with the settings I use on kick drum ready to go. So all I have to do is EQ and then pull down my threshold and dial in my compressor, and we're ready to go there. Snare drum, we have a snare top, snare bottom, and I'm not really sure if I do. In my template, I have the phase flipped on the snare top, so everything's in phase, everything's ready to go. And then again, same kind of processing on my snare bus here, okay? So my two snare drums are sending to the snare level. Got a limiter to catch any peaks that jump past. Recording compression, got an EQ all ready to go, and then I have a compressor with slightly different settings tailored to snare drums, ready to go as well. So a little bit faster attack, a little bit faster release set for those snare drums, okay? And then both on the kick and the snare, these are sending to my room reverb, and then they're also, the snare drum is sending to a room reverb I have set for the snare and the toms. So all 4 toms here, I have 4 tom tracks ready to go because that's what's set up on a kit in the studio here. So 3 racks, 1 floor. These are all busing into the toms bus or the toms level. EQ, again, ready to go on the tom bus. These are also sending to my room emulation reverb, and then they're also sending to the room reverb down at the other end of the session. We got our overheads here, a stereo track for the overheads, EQ, ready to go, also sending into the room emulation here. And then on the room track, I have a mono room here in the studio, but it's not that hard to just flip it to stereo if need be. EQ all ready to go, and I always, 90% of the time, not always, roll off the top end on the room mic, so I have a low pass filter there all engaged and ready to go. Now my room emulation is again built into my template because I send most of my drums into some kind of room emulation to give them a little bit more oomph, a little bit more width, a little bit more room sound. It's the open air reverb, and it's running a Bricasti Room Studio B close mics. And then EQ rolling off the top end, so everything above 10K, and then everything below 200 because I don't like that much low end in my reverbs, in my room sound. And then I do have an actual pan plugin or a width plugin here, narrowing up the room mic because it was a little bit too wide for me when I initially built this out into my template. Okay, so just a plugin there, narrowing it up. Moving into our bass, I have a track for the bass DI, and then a track for the bass amp. These are busing into a bass bus. Now on our bass DI, I have my plugins all set to go to isolate our low end on the DI, so everything below 180, and then all set to isolate the high end on the bass amp, so everything above 180, so the opposite of our bass DI there. And then on our bass bus here, I have an EQ all set to go, all ready to go, And then I have the compressor that I normally reach for on bass, this 1176 with the attack and release settings that I will be using, all ready to go. So the goal here is to be all set to go with any kind of tracks that you could be getting in for the different genres. You can make a different template for the different genres that you're mixing, and whenever you get tracks for that genre, you can open up the template and just pull your tracks in, and then instead of creating different tracks, renaming tracks, you're just pulling these different audio pieces into these preset tracks with the plugins and processing all set to go. It minimizes the time you spend setting up your sessions so you can get right to the creative work rather than focusing on the technical work of pulling in plugins and getting your settings set and renaming tracks and all that. So guitars, all I have here is I have a couple DI tracks in case I get some DIs. They have a couple guitar amp emulations up here, or amp simulators, excuse me, ready to go in case I need those. And then I have amp tracks too if I'm getting just regular guitar tracks. All of those are feeding into my electric guitar bus here, which again has an EQ ready to go here. And this is more here because I wouldn't be processing all the guitars as one. It's more here so I can drag and drop it onto any guitar tracks that I need to, or where I see fit. If I create rhythm buses or lead buses or that type of thing. Acoustics, I have 2 acoustic tracks here. Usually I'm going to be getting doubled acoustics, so a left and a right. These are feeding into the acoustic bus, which again has an EQ all set to go. You're seeing a theme here, usually an EQ set to go. And then the 1176 style compressor that I tend to reach for with acoustic guitars. Same kind of thing happening here on our piano and organ track. Stereo piano, stereo organ, and if it is mono, again, it's not that hard to just reach up and change the track to mono if need be. Both of these are feeding into a keys bus in case I need to process them all together. But here on the piano track, EQ all set to go, and then same 1176 style compressor that I tend to reach for piano tracks. On the organ track, just have an EQ ready to go. If I need a compressor, it's not that hard for me to just drag the fat channel over to the organ track and select, an LA2A style compressor or a Fairchild type thing. Moving on to our vocals here. I have a lead vocal and a harmony vocal that are sending to our Vox bus. And for our vocals, both our harmony and our lead vocals are the same here. EQ all set to go so I can do my basic EQing, sending into that same 1176 style FET compressor. And then I have a de-esser all ready to go on the end as well. Just general settings, 4K and up. And then the threshold's pretty high so I can pull it down as need be. Same settings are applying to our harmony and our background vocal bus here. But then on our lead and harmony here, I have a send to my slap delay all ready to go and a send to my plate reverb all ready to go as well. So our background vocals, I have 4 background vocal channels created that are all sending into my background vocal bus with the same type of processing as our lead vocal. And again, I can always change these compressors as need be if I need to reach for something slower like an LA2A or a Fairchild type thing. And then a de-esser's there if need be, if there's some S's that pop through and we need to tame those on our background vocals as well. The only thing I actually don't have built into my template is a reverb for the background vocals, which I usually use a longer plate reverb. That's probably something I should build into my template. So a good example here, I would just create a bus channel. I would call it, I usually reach for my flat plate reverb. So I would just name it flat plate verb. I can color it white to match the rest of my effects. Solo safe it, send it to my mix bus here. And then I probably have the settings saved here though. Here it is, flat plate reverb. And now I would just come up here when I'm done and save this into my template. Moving on down here, so these are all the effects. I have my slap delay all set to go, 100 milliseconds. I have my low cut, my high cut in here, set to 100%. I have my reverb all set to go. So this is my 2-second plate reverb with my 152 millisecond pre-delay, all ready to go. And then I have an EQ on most of the back ends of my reverbs, like you saw earlier with the drums, rolling off below 200 and rolling off above 10K. This one here for the vocals, I actually do have a cut here at 1.2, just ready to get rid of any kind of ringing that could come through on the mid-range area. I don't know why this is set to 12th octave, in case you encounter that. So that's just ready to go there, attack any kind of ringing. I have my room reverb, my medium studio here. So this is the one I usually apply to drums. The length is kind of weird on it, but it's sitting around 800, 900 milliseconds. So shorter than our vocal reverb, but just something to add a little bit of length to our snare and our tom. Again, same kind of reverb rolling off that low end. I don't want to hear, any kind of kick drum or low weight on our snare drum sending into our reverb. That's just going to muddy things up. And then the flat plate reverb that I just made, that's about a 6-second reverb, so very long, that I usually throw on background vocals to give them that long, beautiful tail. And then again, same EQ that I have preset on all my reverbs here, rolling off everything below 200. Now, all of our buses here, you see most of our tracks are preset sending into buses. So all our drums are sending to a drums bus, our basses are sending to a bass bus, electric guitars are sending to electrics, acoustic guitars are sending to acoustics, keys are sending to keys, vocals are sending to vocals, and background vocals are sending to background vocals. Now, all of our buses here are sending to mix A. So this is my proprietary mix bus, or my pseudo mix bus here, where I have my console shaper ready to go. So my console emulation. I have my mix bus compressor all set to go. So this is the SSL style bus compressor, set to 2-to-1, 30 millisecond attack, 100 millisecond release, and I have it set at the threshold that I always keep it at, which is -1.6. I never move that. The reason being is I have all these things preset, so all I have to do is pull up the volume of my tracks, and when it's getting to that volume that I like it in my room or in my headphones, this compressor is going to be doing exactly what I need it to be. So all of these things are preset and ready to go in my mixing template, so I don't have to worry about them. I can just focus on treating the tracks and mixing these tracks and getting them to sound good. So the creative style stuff. We want to pull all of the technical side of the stuff out of the process, out of your mind, so it's not a distraction, not a bother. And then I have a dB of makeup gain on here ready to go as well. And then moving on down onto the actual mix bus. So my mix A sends into the mix bus. I have a limiter all set to go, adding 6 dB a gain, so I get that little bit of mastering edge, so things don't change, the balance doesn't change too much when I do send this to mastering. And then I have that -1 ceiling all set and ready to go. And I believe it's set to, K14 as well. So I mix at K20, and then I master at K14. So those are just two different styles of meters. So you can see there's a 6 dB difference between them. That's why we have our 6 dB gain here on our limiter, taking it up 6 dB for our mastering level. That's just so there's no surprises when I do get to mastering. And then I also have on my mixing template here, so my mix bus sends into the main here, and then I have an EQ ready to go on the main for any kind of reference tracks I pull in, so I can always pull in and reference all my low end, my mid-range and high end, and that type of thing as well. So all of this stuff is built in and ready to go. These colors look different for some reason. Probably need to update my template. But all of this stuff is built into my template and ready to go, so it's all plug and play, right? I just pull in my tracks, drag them up to where they belong, drag my bass tracks to my bass, my drums to my drum tracks, vocals and lead vocals to their different tracks, and then all it is just pulling up the plugin and EQing and compressing from there. I'm not, oh, what plugin should I use on this? Or, oh, what should I drag and what should I pull on this? Everything's there, everything's ready to go. I don't have to pull up any effects. As you saw me have to do here, I pulled in one just to save it to my template. Everything is there and ready to go. It makes you faster, it makes you more efficient, and it keeps you focused on the creative instead of the technical style stuff. You don't get bogged down pulling in plugins, searching for effects, searching for EQs, searching for compressors. None of that. You don't get bogged down searching for levels or compressing your mix bus. Everything is built into your template. All the sends are there, all the buses are there, all your limiting is already built in. And then once you build it out like this, all you have to do, you don't have to save the track. In Studio One, you just come up to and you do save as template, and then you can name your template or replace or update an existing one if you have it there. And then that's it. And then every time you're pulling up one, when you're doing a new song, right, you have your user templates here. So you have your styles and your interfaces. And then in Studio One, you have user templates. And then this is the one I always use, my session template, for mixing and recording. That's it. That's how it's going to make you. This is the key to finishing your mixes faster, is being prepped and ready from the get-go. I hope that was helpful for you. Again, free gift right in the description for you, my 7-step mixing checklist. This is going to help you hone your workflow right from the get-go so you're focused and efficient and finishing your mixes faster and getting that pro sound. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.